The movie opens like a fairy tale, with the pages of a storybook flipping open. Once upon a time, there was a king and queen who lived happily ever after in their beautiful kingdom. Their joy grew even greater when they welcomed a precious daughter into their lives, a little princess who completed their world. But happiness, as fate would have it, was short-lived. Not long after their daughter's birth, the queen mysteriously vanished. Whispers filled the kingdom. Some claimed the queen had been kidnapped. Others, more cruelly, suggested she had abandoned her family. Rumors even spread that she had deceived the king. Heartbroken and desperate, the king ordered a relentless search, turning over every stone across his entire kingdom, but the queen was nowhere to be found. Time passed, and the king's sorrow only deepened. One day, his trusted counselor approached him, suggesting that the king, overwhelmed by the duties of ruling and grieving, should entrust the care of the princess to him. After much hesitation, the king agreed. He sighed heavily and said, "I allow you, but take good care of my daughter." The counselor, who lived within the palace, assured him there was nothing to worry about. From that day forward, the counselor took charge of raising the little princess, whom they named Barbara. Barbara was a bright, curious child, spending much of her time gazing at the stars through her beloved telescope. Her constant companion was her white cat, her only real friend in a lonely world. She shared her secrets and dreams with no one but her feline friend. Though the counselor was supposed to guide her, he treated Barbara coldly. He was stern and unkind, while her father remained distant, consumed by his own sadness and responsibilities. Barbara, in turn, disliked the counselor just as much. She keenly felt the absence of her mother and the warmth that should have filled her childhood. One day, Barbara was riding her bicycle through the palace gardens, her cat happily trotting alongside. Suddenly, the counselor's servant stepped into her path. Barbara collided with him and was flung into the air, about to crash, but miraculously, her quick-thinking cat saved her. Instead of apologizing for the accident, the counselor blamed Barbara. "This doesn't suit a princess," he scolded sharply. "If an ordinary child did this, fine. But you are royalty." Barbara tried to explain, "I was just cycling, and your servant stepped in front of me." But the counselor ignored her protests and warned her that he would report her behavior to the king. In anger, he ordered his servant to remove her bicycle from the palace grounds. He didn't want to see it ever again. Meanwhile, the king sat alone in the palace library, spinning a large globe. The room was filled with books and maps, a world he could control, unlike his broken heart. "My queen," he whispered, "I have searched everywhere for you. Where are you?" At that moment, the counselor entered, full of complaints about Barbara's behavior. But the king cut him off, his voice weary yet firm. "Barbara is my daughter. I know her well. If she finds joy in cycling, let her. Her mother is gone. She needs to find happiness somehow. Don't bother me with such petty matters." Dismissed, the counselor stormed away, furious. Returning to his private chambers filled with luxury and a lavish spread of fruits, the counselor revealed his true colors. "I'm tired of all this," he sneered to his servant. "Soon, the king must be removed from the picture. Once he's gone, I will control the state. Barbara will trust me as I've raised her, and everyone will see me as her guardian." The servant, uneasy, asked, "But what if Barbara finds out?" The counselor replied darkly, "If she does, I'll do the same thing to her as I did to her mother." It became clear. The counselor was the villain all along. He had orchestrated the queen's disappearance, and now he planned the same fate for the princess. Meanwhile, Barbara sat in her room, eagerly awaiting her birthday, which was just minutes away at midnight. She had been reading to pass the time, but the book ended before the clock struck 12. Wanting to stay awake, she wandered into the grand library in search of another story. There, on a high shelf, a glowing, colorful book caught her eye. It shimmered with magic. As she opened it, sparkling lights flew out and a luminous butterfly emerged. Delighted, Barbara reached out, and suddenly, the butterfly pulled her into the book itself. Barbara found herself in a magical world full of vibrant flowers and beautiful weather. She laughed with joy until she spotted strange creatures, a rabbit flying through the air, a spider with a turtle shell, and other fantastical beasts. Alarmed, she stumbled back, but a gentle creature offered her a ride on its back and carried her through the wondrous landscape. Soon, they reached a charming little house, and Barbara hurried inside to explore. There, she met a small, green dragon, an innocent, kind-eyed creature. Barbara admired the dragon's cozy home and noticed a plant nursery outside. Enthusiastically, she began watering the dragon's vegetables. However, as she did, the magic water caused the plants to grow gigantic. Barbara gleefully slid down a giant pumpkin vine, swinging and laughing. But her joy was short-lived. A poisonous vine suddenly sprang to life and wrapped around her. Thinking quickly, the dragon breathed fire to burn the vines, rescuing Barbara. Grateful, Barbara climbed onto the dragon's back, and he carried her to the place where she could return to her world. She closed the magical book, her heart full of joy and wonder from the adventure. The next morning, Barbara couldn't help but replicate what she had learned. She went to the garden and began watering plants just like she had in the dragon's world. The counselor saw her and, as usual, scolded her sharply. Angry but cautious, he decided not to complain to the king again, remembering the king's warning. Instead, the counselor schemed. He slyly suggested to the king, "Your Majesty, you should journey to the forest for fresh air. It would lift your spirits." But the king, looking out sadly, declined. "If my queen returns while I am away," he said softly, "she will think I did not wait for her. I must stay." Evening fell, and Barbara, excited beyond measure, returned to the magical book. She dove into the fantastical world once again, eager to find her dragon friend. She searched through the dragon's home, the colorful forest, but found no sign of him. Finally, she looked up into the trees and, to her horror, saw the dragon tied up among the branches. Barbara bravely climbed up to rescue him, but she too became tangled in the vines. Just then, a group of children from the magical world appeared. Working together, they freed Barbara and the dragon. Grateful, Barbara waved goodbye to her new friends. Back in her world, Barbara spent the afternoon bouncing joyfully on a trampoline with the counselor's servant, who for once showed a more playful side. But when the counselor saw them, he was furious. In the chaos, the servant even clumsily fell onto the counselor, causing a ridiculous scene that left Barbara laughing. Later on, the counselor approaches the king with urgent news. He warns the king that the rulers of the neighboring kingdoms are planning to attack. He says, "Soon they will destroy our state. But if you give me the order, I'll destroy them all first." His true intention wasn't to protect the kingdom, it was a cunning plan to fill the king with fear and anxiety. The counselor hoped that, under such heavy stress, the king might suffer a heart attack or collapse from the tension, leaving the throne wide open for him to seize. However, the king was wise and didn't fall for the counselor's tricks. Calmly, he replied, "No one will attack us. I believe that because I do no harm to others, no harm will come to our kingdom." Meanwhile, Barbara is shown once again. This time, she's happily playing in the dragon's house. While exploring, Barbara and the dragon stumble upon a strange magical stick belonging to the dragon's uncle. Curious, they start playing with it. But as they wave it around, an accident happens. They are suddenly transformed into a wooden table. Just then, the dragon's uncle arrives, hearing the faint sounds of his nephew and Barbara's voices. He picks up the magical stick, trying to fix the situation, but he struggles to use it properly. Luckily, Barbara remembers a magical spell she had read earlier from a book. She recites the spell aloud, and this time, although they don't immediately return to normal, Barbara and the dragon are transformed into creatures that look like odd, turtle-like beings. Hearing the correct magic words from Barbara, the dragon's uncle is finally able to undo the spell properly, returning them both back to normal. Later, Barbara runs to her father, full of excitement. She says, "Father, do you know I found a magical stick? With it, you can change into any form you like." But the king, still grounded in logic, lovingly smiles and tells her, "My love, these things don't happen." Barbara insists it's real, but they are interrupted. The scene then shifts to the counselor, who is secretly eavesdropping on their private conversation using his magical mirror. Barbara then returns to the dragon's house. She finds the dragon and his uncle in distress. Their magical mirror has gone missing. Worried, Barbara helps them search for it and gently asks the dragon children if they took the mirror while playing. At first, the children deny it, but eventually, they admit to having taken it in their mischief and return it. The dragon and his uncle are relieved and thank the children. Meanwhile, the counselor once again tries to manipulate the king. He lies, claiming that a witch living in the forest has the ability to find any missing person through her magic, and insists they should seek her help to find the missing queen. Of course, it's all part of his wicked plan. There is no witch. The counselor himself is behind the queen's disappearance. He just wants to lure the king into the forest, away from the kingdom. But the wise king once again refuses to be manipulated. He calmly says there's no need for that. Prepare your luggage, we will personally search for the queen. Back at the castle, Barbara returns home, but can't find her beloved cat. While searching, she overhears something strange. The counselor is using his magical mirror to spy on the king. Suspicious, Barbara hurries back to the dragon's house and asks the dragon and his uncle, what is the magical mirror's true purpose? They explain that the mirror allows a person to hear or talk to anyone, no matter how far away they are. Excited, Barbara asks, "Can I use it to speak to my mother? She's missing." The dragon's uncle tells her, "Yes, but only if your mother is still in the same world. If she's missing from this world, you won't be able to reach her." Determined, Barbara realizes that the counselor must have the other mirror. She sneaks into the counselor's room and tries to retrieve it. But the counselor catches her in the act. Furious, he accuses her of stealing and locks her away in her room. Despite being trapped, Barbara isn't hopeless. She still has her magic book with her. Opening the book, she calls out to the dragon for help. The dragon's uncle responds immediately. He arms her with a few gadgets and another magical stick, preparing her for a daring rescue mission. However, when Barbara tries to leave, she discovers that the path she came through has been sealed. Saddened, tears well up in her eyes. Just when things seem impossible, Barbara notices something. Her cat has reopened the magic book, revealing the portal once again. Barbara, the dragon, and her cat hurry through the portal, heading straight for the counselor's tower. When they arrive, they find the tower locked, but the dragon breathes fire on the lock, melting it open. They descend into the basement, where they find a door glowing with blue light. A mysterious voice tells them, to pass through, you must answer 3 questions. Barbara listens carefully and answers each question wisely and correctly. The door creaks open, allowing them to step through. On the other side, they find the magical mirror. But as Barbara rushes toward it, the ground beneath her becomes treacherous, boiling lava bubbles just below the surface. She panics and asks the dragon to fly over and grab the mirror. The dragon tries, but as it flies, its wings start to burn from the intense heat. Thinking quickly, Barbara uses her magical stick to transform the dragon into a huge wooden stick, which she uses to cross the lava safely. They continue toward the mirror, but just as Barbara is about to reach it, she falls into a ditch. She looks up and sees the mischievous dragon children laughing. Realizing this ditch leads into another world, the children quickly throw down a ladder to help her climb back up. Barbara races to the mirror and desperately asks it to let her speak to her mother. At first, the mirror doesn't respond. Its magic was fading fast, drained from the counselor's overuse. Fortunately, the dragon pulls out a magical serum given by his uncle and pours it over the mirror. Immediately, the mirror flickers back to life, and Barbara is finally able to see and speak with her mother. They share an emotional conversation, but before her mother can say everything she needs to, the mirror's magic runs out and the image disappears. Heartbroken, Barbara returns to her room, tears in her eyes. But just then, a miracle happens. The mirror in her room begins to shimmer and glow. Sparkling lights emerge, and through them, she hears her mother's gentle voice. "Barbara, my love, don't worry. I will return soon to you and your father. We'll live happily together again." Overjoyed and determined, Barbara runs to her father and reveals everything. She tells him about the counselor's deception and shows him all the proof she had gathered. Shocked and angered by the betrayal, the king immediately banishes the counselor and his servant from the kingdom forever, forbidding them from ever returning. With the evil counselor gone, peace returns to the land. The king, no longer clouded by manipulation, focuses on his duties once more. The dragon and his uncle also return to their world through the magic book. And now that the counselor's influence has faded, the queen is finally freed from his spell and returns home. The king, Barbara, and the entire kingdom rejoice. The film closes on a bright, joyful note, with the family reunited and the kingdom safe once again. Thank you for watching.